45 years, 46 households. Every corner of the planet. So it was like living with a hurricane. He was on the move. And what can I say? He was brilliant. He had a vision that he had from when he was a very small child in a very poor community, grew up very poor. And during the Depression, and he made up his mind when he was this big that he would always look after the poorest of the poor. That was his mission. And then later, after 2 years with the Inuit, where he learned fluent Inuit, lived in an igloo, and really got in touch with nature. And this is where he got his environmental training, was from the Inuits. Anyway, he had a fantastic sense of humor. He had a repertoire of thousands of jokes for every occasion. He loved to make people laugh. He loved, obviously, to travel. In Rio, when he did the Rio conference, on the last night, we go out to a small little restaurant outside of Rio to escape the press and so on. And we're sitting there, and of course there happened to be one journalist. So she comes over to the table, and she said, "Mr. Strong, you have 124 heads of state here." Or she said, "How many heads of state?" And he said, "Well, 124 presidents, prime ministers, kings, and so on, but no leaders." Anyway, he had a great sense of humor, and of course that hit the papers. And he had, at that point, he had a table made, a table for 125 people in a great hall, one chair for each of the leaders and a chair for himself. No leader was allowed to bring in any, secretaries, attendants. It was him and 124 world leaders around this table, and he had 1 hour to tell them what was going on with planet Earth. Only one leader went back and really implemented, Agenda 21 that came out of Rio, which was Castro. And, during the meetings, each world leader got 7 minutes to speak. And everybody was so worried that Castro would go on and on and on. So anyway, when Castro walked up to the podium, he went like this, 5. And in 5 minutes, he gave the most brilliant speech I've ever heard. And even Bush was clapping. And when the cameras, so when the cameras, tapped into Bush clapping for Castro, he went like that. Anyway, so another, I think, really great event that he organized. He was Undersecretary General of the UN 8, 9 times, but mainly for the environment, science and technology, reform, and so on. But this one was the drought in Ethiopia. 2 million people had died already, and 200 million people were on the line. Nothing was left, no seeds, they had sold their tools, there was nothing left. So he calls together all the donor governments in Geneva, and in 1 week he raised $5 billion. and started shipping food in from every corner of the planet and actually kept 200 million people alive. And, you know, climate change. Since 1968, when MIT had the first meeting on climate change, and then there was one in Mexico, Cocoyoc.
At that time?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, the very early climate change meeting was in Mexico. And then, of course, you know, Stockholm. So, but anyway, he had such a vision. And now, I mean, it's like it took a 16-year-old to get the world to listen. I mean, he tried and tried and tried to get him to listen. And of course, the right wing was after him day and night. The whole Murdoch empire had a machine trying to demolish him. So he had a lot of battles in his life. It wasn't all easy. Anyway, short and sweet. And thank you again for being here. And climate change, after 50-some years, have finally arrived and being listened to. It's a little late in the game, but better late than never.
Yeah, right.